All right, this is Dr. Looney. I'm an Algebra 2 teacher here at Lancaster High School, and I'm gonna give you some tips today how to pass the Algebra 2 Common Assessment that's gonna be either on Wednesday or Thursday or this week. So let's go ahead and do it. Let's start with this first problem right here. This is an absolute value inequality, and we know that we're gonna either get the solution for this, since it's an inequality, it's either gonna be one set or it's going to be two sets. The way you determine how many sets you are, you look at the inequality sign. If this is greater than and the number in front of the absolute value is positive, you know you got two sets. So that means you got x is greater than some number or x is less than some number. We just need to find out what those two x values are, so let's do it. All right, so the first thing we need to do is change this inequality sign to an equal sign. So we're gonna keep the absolute value. We got 5x minus 2, we'll take the absolute value of that, minus 1 is equal to 4. Now, before we can get rid of the absolute value signs, we need to get rid of this 1. So we're gonna add 1 to both sides. The reason why we're adding 1 to both sides, because we gotta do inverse operations. So since this is minus, in order to get rid of a minus, then you're gonna have to add 1 to both sides. So let's go ahead and see what we have here. We still have the absolute value of 5x minus 2, but that's going to be equal to 5. So the absolute value means the distance away from 0, and we know that's going to be equal to 5. So if I want to go to the left, if I go 5 places to the left, I'm going to be at 5. I'm sorry, 5 places to the right, I'm going to be at 5. But if I go 5 places to the left, I'm gonna be at -5. So that means when I take the absolute value of -5 or 5 is gonna equal 5. So that means that 5x minus 2 has to equal 5, or 5x minus 2 is equal to -5. All right, so let's go ahead and solve this equation and get those two values for x. So here we got 5x minus 2 is equal to 5. Well, we need to create inverse operations again. We got a minus 2, so we're gonna add 2 to both sides. It gives us 5x is now equal to 7. And then the last thing we need to do is get rid of this 5. So we're gonna divide both sides by 5. So we know one of the x values, x is equal to 7 over 5. Now we just need to get this other x value, and then we'll be done. So now we're gonna have 5x minus 2 is now equal to -5. Again, we add 2 to both sides. That gives us 5x is equal to -3. Now the last thing we need to do again is divide both sides by 5, and then we get another x value. X is equal to -3 over 5. Now remember, I said in the end we need to get these two x values. So that's what we're going to do. Now, the one that's larger, that's the one that's going to be greater than. So I know that x is greater than 7 over 5, or x is going to be less than -3 over 5. So that's pretty simple. If you know how to do this type of problem, then that's already points that you can get on the test. All right, so next we're going to go to this problem in the middle. This one is the easiest of them all, so we won't take long to do that. So in this one, we just need to solve this equation. So we need to get x by itself. So in the end, we're gonna have x is equal to two different numbers, and we just need to find out what those two different numbers is. So I see this is a -25, so I'm gonna add 25 to both sides, bam. And so these two, the -25 and the +25 is gonna cancel out. So I got x squared is equal to 25. Now, we need to undo this operation, which is squared. So what is the inverse of this square root? Of a square is the square root. So I'm going to take the square root of both sides. Now be careful, when you take the square root of both sides, you get plus or minus. So always remember to put your plus or minus. So x is going to be equal to plus or minus 5. And those are your solutions. You got 5 or you got -5. Like I told you, that's pretty simple, straightforward. Bam, we're done. All right, let's look at the last one. I think the last one is probably the most challenging out of all of the questions that you're gonna have, but yeah, we can do it. Now, this is called a quadratic inequality, And in order to solve this, we need to set it equal to 0. So first, let's see what it looks like. This is what the quadratic function looks like. And since it's positive, we know it opens up because that's the leading coefficient is 1. 1 is positive, so we know our graph is going to open up. And it says, I want to find out when this graph is less than 72. So let's just say this line was 72. If I want to find out when the graph is less than 72, that means it's going to be all these numbers down here. Yeah. So I know that this is only going to be one set. So if I got one set, I'm automatically going to say, well, I know my answer is going to look like X in the middle and 2 less than signs that's going to be to the left and the right of it. I just need to find out what these 2 X values are. Well, this is the 2 X values that I need. So this is when this particular function is equal to 0. So I'm going to take x squared minus 6x, change the inequality sign to an equal sign, and then that's going to be equal to 72. But now I need to subtract 72 from both sides because I want to find out when the graph is equal to 0. So I'm going to have x squared minus 6x minus 72 is equal to 0. Now, once you have a quadratic function equal to 0, you can solve this multiple ways, but the easiest way to solve this is to see if you can factor it. So I want to find factors of negative 72 that you can add up to get negative 6. All right, so let's find out what those factors are. Negative 72 that I can add up to get negative 6. Well, that's going to be negative 12 and a positive 6. Those are my 2 factors. And then we're going to use the box method to find out how to break this down. Because we need to break this down into x plus, we need x, and this could be plus or minus something times x plus or minus something. We don't know what it is yet. Well, actually, I know what it is because I'm Dr. Looney, but you don't know what it is yet. So we're going to find out what it is. All right, so in the first box, we're going to put x squared. In the last box, we're going to put negative 72. I always put the first term first, last term last. And then on the diagonal, we're going to put the factors, which is negative 12 and positive 6. So I'm going to put negative 12, add an x to that, and a positive 6, add an x to that. All right, now we just need to find, I always take out an x. Always take an x out of from the first line right here and put it right in front of that first box. Then we're going to work backwards. What do I need to multiply to x to get x squared? That's just x. What I need to multiply to x to get negative 12x? That's just minus 12. Then what I need to multiply to x to get 6x? That's just 6. So I can rewrite this statement now. I can take this x squared minus 6x minus 72 and rewrite it as x minus 12 and x plus, let me erase this. This should be x plus 6. And remember, this is equal to 0. And in order to find out what it is, we set each one of our factors equal to 0 so we can find out what x is. So that means x minus 12 is equal to 0, or x plus 6 is equal to 0. Then I'm going to add 12 to both sides. I know x is equal to 12. And then I'm going to subtract 6 from both sides, so I know x is equal to negative 6. So those are the x values that I was looking for. You always put the smallest number first. So this is going to be a negative 6 is less than x, less than the larger number, which is 12. This is your solution. Now keep in mind, this only looks like this when it's less than, and this is positive when you only get 2 sets of numbers. If we were to change this to greater than, then you're going to have 2 sets of numbers, because this is where it's greater than, when it's above the line. All right, yes, that is what we have for today. If you can do these 3 type of problems, then you definitely can make 100 on the test. All right, I'm Dr. Looney and I'm out.